My lords, today we are going to cover a tale of an empire shaped by the corruption of power. This empire, known at its peak as the Oran Empire, was, like many, forged from a single event upon a single planet. We have records from their governor, named Garnea, and various scribes and officials that served her. I shall detail the story of the Oran Empire for you now. Our species has always been prone to conflict. Empires and kingdoms rose, but never lasted, always collapsing under the pressure of internal strife. This culture of polarization climaxed when our world was consumed by nuclear war. From this chaos, a leader emerged, Matriarch Garnea. The Matriarch managed to assemble a gathering of followers who had drawn to her selflessness, charisma, and authority. Finally, someone was poised to unite us. Unification was a long and painful process, but one after another, the warring factions eventually surrendered and fell in line, cowed by the Matriarch's promises of a future amongst the stars. For the first time in centuries, we had a peace, but under the surface, the scars of old grievances ran deep. The Matriarch put an end to our internal strife and brought about unification. She came to power on a platform of patriotic unity and promised to lead us into the stars to create a grand galactic empire, with the Oran people at its center. Today, however, people are growing impatient and dissident. Many voices question her leadership abilities. The Council has prepared several 40-year plans that will hopefully put these doubts to rest and propel us into the next stage of our species. During the post-unification war period, Garnea swore that one day our people would settle on other worlds. To many, that vow has become an absolute prophetic promise. Others doubted it would ever become a reality. And despite our advances in FTL technology, some have started to use this unfulfilled promise to undermine the rule of the Matriarch. The shortest way to silence these dissidents is to prove them wrong, and as such, the Matriarch demands that we take to the stars and expand our borders as much as possible. To the Matriarch's credit, it has only been a matter of months since our first colony ship left space dock, and they have already reached their destination and begun to colonize our first planet. The new cities built on Uppbeat Prime will be a magnificent sight to behold. Through sheer grit and determination, the colonists are managing to thrive on this new world. Requests have reached the Matriarch that the orange citizens on Uppbeat Prime wish to show their loyalty and erect a monument to honor her. The project was of course swiftly approved, and additional funding has been sent to assist these colonists. The Matriarch Garnea has appeared on every screen across the Empire. The population waits for the address to begin, and in the message that followed, the Matriarch heaps love and praise on the Oran people. She tells wondrous stories of specific individual accomplishments, with a particular emphasis on her own. She goes on to list what the Oran people have achieved, one glorious success after another, building up to a promise of an even greater future. The transmission quickly ended, and regular scheduled programming resumed. Whispers and rumours are rife across the Empire. Despite the Matriarch's work, there was still much to be done. The Oran Empire consisted of conflicting factions, and the population is united only through her guiding light. Subtly at first, it was suggested a change was needed. She appeared careful not to be the key proponent of these changes, but slowly, a change is being made to the government structure of the Oran people. Currently an elected democracy, a transition to an imperial government has begun. According to the Matriarch, she did not wish to change the post-unification government structure. She has allowed others to suggest a new and exciting, more direct approach that could help remedy some of the problems the Oran Empire faces. Despite the future risks, the Matriarch seized ultimate power, and has now declared an imperial rule across the Oran people. This news of the imperial proclamation broke like a wildfire. A few official signatures later, and a grand coronation ceremony was broadcast to the nation. The majority of the Oran people appear to be happy that the now Archprophet, High Queen, and Supreme Military Commander, Garnea, now has full control of the state. While the mood remains festive, many unspoken questions and uncertainties remain, and many wonder, what will the new Oran Empire look like? Once again, every state-owned screen in the now Oran High Kingdom interrupts its scheduled programming to broadcast an official communication from Occuparon Prime. High Queen Garnea stands in front of a veiled monument. She speaks. Today, we have made history. Never before has our species realized that grand achievements, under my guidance and your hard work, are fully attainable. Let no obstacle stand in our way. The colonists here have proven what model citizens of the Oran people can achieve, and I thank them. Glory to the Oran High Kingdom, and glory to your High Queen. It appears the Queen's ideological opponents have formed a powerful political bloc, and they have called upon their supporters to gather in a peaceful protest against what they see as unilateral changes enacted by the High Queen. They are quick to argue that she has strayed from the preset path set after the unification, and they call for the High Queen to repeal certain reforms. They are campaigning for a return back to democratic life. Protesters are quickly gathering across the Oran High Kingdom. They gather in front of government buildings and demand the High Queen hear out their grievances. Most of them are youngsters, but among the mass are leaders, veterans from the unification wars. Ignoring their demands may prove unwise. Despite this, the High Queen took what only could be described as a tyrannical approach. It would seem that these protesters could not see the light available to them. They must be repressed, publicly punished, and ultimately removed. As such, a crackdown began. The protests were broken up, their leaders savagely beaten and taken into custody. Any who spoke out against the High Queen was swiftly and often very violently dealt with. None could question her rule, without significant risk of harm at least. Despite this, a secretive group calling themselves the Forgotten, publicly via flyers, posters and anomalous recordings and broadcasts, have accused the High Queen of tyranny. They claim that the government no longer represents the will of the people, only the interests of the select few in power. Their trust in the High Queen has waned, and they have brought forward evidence of dissenters who have suddenly disappeared after criticizing the regime. This group's repeated messages appear to be seeping into the minds of our citizens. An independent review was called for, and the High Queen, in an attempt to stay in control of the situation, agreed. Despite attempting to influence its outcome, the independent body revealed that the evidence was indeed found against the High Queen, and it does indeed appear that the High Queen lied, or at least concealed the truth to the Council and the population at large. According to the review, she signed several contracts with various powerful stakeholders, promising many things that she simply could not realistically deliver upon. Today, the Forgotten made themselves the voice of all who have been tricked by the High Queen, and they are calling upon her to transfer power back to the Council and to our people. In a further attempt to smear the High Queen's reputation, secret documents have been leaked by an anonymous party. This treasonous act has poured oil onto the political fire that is already threatening to consume the High Kingdom. The Forgotten, although obviously prime suspects, appear to be innocent, as the Queen could not find proof of their involvement. Despite this, the Queen sent out her secret police force, their primary order to find and silence these dissidents. Many weeks have now passed since the secret police were sent out. The political situation is escalating out of control. The High Queen refuses to release power and has ignited an empire-wide wave of violent protests. Casualties are beginning to mount, and left with no other choice, the High Queen has ordered the opposition to be crushed by any means necessary. The traitors shall be rooted out, dragged out of their dwellings and eliminated. Once again, she appears on every screen across the High Kingdom. The population awaits with bated breath. Today I bring you wondrous news. A great victory has been achieved, but it has not been won without sacrifice. Our enemies have been destroyed, yet the sting of their betrayal makes my heart bleed. In their selfishness, they sought to collapse our government and break the progress we have spent decades achieving. Ultimately, they were no match for our collective strength. The ringleaders have been apprehended. Soon, they shall be publicly executed for their crimes against the state. With that, the transmission finished. A number of years have now passed, and while all seems relatively quiet, the political rumblings have not 100% subsided. The Queen remains in her palace and is very rarely seen in public. Rumours are rife, and it's believed that this started in the Queen's household guard, quickly spread to the general populace. Apparently, the High Queen has developed a unique way to cope with stress. It appears that she has turned to high-strength narcotics. Although some might see this as a simple quirk, given the already unstable political situation, it is likely to have drastic effects on the High Kingdom. The High Queen's daughter Matea is dead. We have yet to determine her cause of death, but all preliminary reports suggest natural causes. The High Queen was struck hard by the loss of her progeny. She is taken to her chambers and has not been seen for several days. A period of national mourning has been decreed, and we await the results of the investigation into the cause of her daughter's death. Matea was laid to rest following a public procession. Every citizen in the Oran High Kingdom was invited to pay their respects, and the funeral was followed by a week-long festival, with no expenses spared. Despite every evidence pointing towards a natural death, the High Queen refused to accept it. The death of her daughter has greatly affected her, and orders have been sent out across the High Kingdom that those responsible for this cowardly assassination must be found. Security forces are already conducting a sweep to root out dissenters. The level of violence that has accompanied these arrests has shocked many of our citizens. More protests denouncing the abuse of power and demanding a new wave of government reforms have erupted once more. For the first time since she took power, her homeworld's population is rising up against her. Most concerningly, the High Queen has ordered a large-scale cleansing of one of our planets. Apparently she believes it houses a dissident bastion. She believes that they are responsible for the death of her daughter. Of course, beyond her ramblings, little to no evidence has been produced. Should we really risk the lives of loyal citizens on her hunch? Rightly or wrongly, we did as she ordered. What followed was a brutal orbital bombardment. 80% of the planet's population was purged as our battleships in orbit turned their gigacannons and kinetic batteries to face the planet. Events continue to spiral out of control. The sector governor, Sextus, has been pulled from his home during the night. He was executed within a few hours of being held. The authorities are citing an accident during prisoner transport. The dissidents have finally revealed themselves. They consist of several high-ranking leaders from across the High Kingdom, including 2 very prominent admirals. They are well established and are demanding the Queen negotiate and hear their demands. The High Queen has responded through an empire-wide broadcast. It was short and abrupt. No concessions will be made. The Queen ordered all will bend the knee or die. Sadly for the High Queen, she had vastly overestimated her position. A decade or so of civil war had drained the Oran people of all of their patience. That evening, she was dragged from her bed by her guards, hauled through her stately palace and out through the vastly ornate entrance. She was tied to the base of one of her golden statues and promptly executed, live streamed on network television for her entire nation to see. A truly Stellaris ending to this story. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you're all enjoying the new DLC. If you want to hear some lore on the renowned paragons, then please click the video on screen now.